Well, can you believe it? Today will be our last chapter in our book, Unicorns and Germs. I hope you've been enjoying reading it with me. I like Zoe and Sassafras stories. All right, so the last chapter is called Bacteria Everywhere. And do you remember we've been learning about the word bacteria? Do you remember what it means? They're tiny little microscopic living things that can be harmful or helpful depending upon what kind of bacteria it is. So we're going to finish on up. The next morning, Sassafras and I woke up super early. We spent almost a full hour with our noses pressed to the window looking for any sign of Tiny. Until Mom suggested that I keep busy while we wait. First, I updated my science journal. Results. Petri dish. And these are the things, remember, that she put in her Petri dishes. And then over here it says how much bacteria, and then she would record her results. Let's see, there was nothing in it. How much bacteria? A lot. Soap? A lot. Disinfecting wipes? A lot. Onion? Just 2 small dots. Garlic? None! Yay! Thyme? A little less than the nothing dish. And oregano, a little less than the nothing dish. So remember, her 2 answers were going to be either the garlic, because there was none, or the just the 2 small dots, right? So the conclusion was that garlic, the conclusion means what the results were, what happened from the results. Kind of like the answers, right? Garlic works the best at getting rid of the unicorn bacteria. I finished that. Still no Tiny. So then Mom and I cooked up a new batch of agar mixture with unicorn hair, without unicorn hair. And she gave me a whole bunch of cotton swabs to explore the house. That would be fun. I took samples from my face, Sassafras's mouth, the bottoms of my shoes, the bottoms of Sassafras's paws, the bathroom and kitchen sinks, the front doorknob, my bedroom doorknob, and under my fingernails. Ooh, oh, these are going to be so gross. I giggled in anticipation. I was just filling the last of the glass jars with hot water to warm up the cooler when Sassafras hopped up on the kitchen counter. Sassafras, Sass, down! You know you're not supposed to be up here. Sassafras not only ignored me, but also started purring really loudly. He was staring out the window. No way! I squealed. Our whole backyard was lit up by a giant rainbow. Sassafras and I both ran for the back door, and I burst into the yard. Rainbow light was everywhere. It was like some kind of amazing dream. Oh, who do you see? Tiny! Tiny! I yelped in delight. Roar! Cried Sassafras. They became good friends, didn't they? We both bounded over to Tiny, who stood on all 4 legs. Do you think his cut is all better? He was positively glowing. He looked incredible. Zoe like a unicorn. Zoe fixed, ow, Tiny declared. I ran to the bandage and peeled it off. There was just a pale pink line where the swollen, angry cut had been just yesterday. Hooray for garlic, I cheered. I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to see Mom. You did it, sweetie. Well done. She held my camera out to me. Mom, you're a genius. Now that Tiny felt better, It was the perfect time to ask for a photo. I always try to get a photo of the magical creatures I help to add to my science journal so I can remember them. Photos of magical creatures are the coolest because some of the magic stays behind in the photo. Tiny, I called up, if it's okay to take a photo with you, would you put your head down by me? I felt clever for thinking of a way to ask that wouldn't involve Tiny nodding and blowing us all over. Tiny put his head down low, and I gave his velvety nose a big hug. Mom snapped a photo. Got it. Can you stay and play with me and sassafras, Tiny? Sorry, Zoe. Tiny need go home. Tiny gone long time. Thank you, Zoe, for help. Ow. Tiny bent his head low again and nuzzled each of our cheeks. Sassafras purred super loudly again. Just then, my dad raced into the backyard. What is going on? He looked around and rubbed his eyes. First we have earthquakes, and now there's an enormous rainbow in our backyard? He came toward us and stood just inches from Tiny's hoof. But of course he had no idea, because he couldn't see Tiny. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, he said, looking through the ginormous unicorn and around at the rainbow-filled yard. Mom and I covered our mouths with our hands to keep from bursting out laughing. If only Dad knew he was standing at the foot of a giant unicorn. While Dad took another look around the yard, Mom and I secretly waved to Tiny. Tiny gave us one last bye-bye, then gracefully and silently galloped into the forest. Mom slid the photo into my hand and walked back inside as walked Dad back inside as he scratched his head. Sassafras was pretty bummed. I thought a tuna treat might cheer him up. When I set the bowl of tuna on the ground, I gave him a big hug. You did such a good job taking care of Tiny. He was a good friend, wasn't he? He bumped his head into my leg and took a huge bite of tuna. Once the purring started, I knew he'd be okay. I looked down at my photo and tilted it this way and that. The rainbow that had filled our whole yard shimmered. Right there. And Tiny sparkled. I couldn't help but smile. I added the photo of Tiny to my science journal, took one last look, then turned my journal to a new page. A new page that was blank and ready for the next magical creature we would meet. If you were to write a story, what magical creature would you put in your story that Zoe would meet? I'd love to hear your ideas.